let's chat about who will amplify this and why. So my core contention here, folks, is that when you produce content of any kind, I don't care if it's a tweet or a blog post or a video or an entire research publication, you need people to amplify it, because without that amplification, it will fall flat. And the bad news here is most content does terribly. This is from a study by BuzzSumo. The slides, that's the other thing I forgot to mention. The slides will be emailed to everyone, so you'll get a copy of them in PDF. You'll also get a copy of the recording, so you can find all of that right after the presentation. But here's BuzzSumo looking at 85% of content gets less than 10 shares. This was in 2015. This has become much worse. BuzzSumo hasn't done the study again, but it has become much worse. This is Backlinko just last year. 94% of blog content gets no links at all. Most of the 6% that do earn links get one link. It is only 2.2% of content that generates links from multiple websites. So for those of you who want links and traffic from links, or are looking for Google rankings from links, most of your content is going to fall flat. 91% of all content produced on the web gets zero organic search traffic. And this is indexable content that is trying to rank for things. Now, I don't think this is tremendously surprising, right? That essentially there are few winners and then kind of everyone else. This is how a lot of distribution curves in all sorts of fields work, right? This is how things work in finance. This is how they work in macroeconomics. This is how it works in small business world. This is how it works on the web. So not a tremendous surprise, but I think the data makes a strong case for trying to break out of this. And one of the challenges is that we face today that we didn't face as much, certainly 7 to 20 years ago, right? That sort of golden age of, if you produce content, a lot of times people would just come, is that every search engine and social algo, right? Whether we're talking about YouTube and Google, or we're talking about Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Reddit, they're all trying to keep people on their site, not send them to yours. So years ago, you might remember, right, that a lot of marketers were complaining bitterly when average Facebook page reach went down from about 8 or 9% to about 2%. And this is what it's like today. 0.09% was the data, the average engagement rate on Facebook, according to Rival IQ's study in January. And, I said, if you're just doing social media marketing and trying to push out content on social platforms and earn your audience exclusively that way without amplification help, I think you're kind of boned. I asked this question not entirely rhetorically, because I do think there are other opportunities. A lot of folks have and do essentially say, I don't believe in content marketing, or I tried it and it didn't work for me. And I can understand that. Certainly, I have seen less of the top level metrics that I used to from the content that I produce, despite having technically the largest audience I've ever had in terms of, number of followers and emails and all those kinds of things. Breaking through the noise is just that much more difficult. And in my opinion, you could conceivably say content marketing is not something I'm going to do, but your alternatives, if you decide to invest, are pretty simple. I think and this is what we do as well, play to the platform's incentives, right? We try and earn branding and following and engagement and awareness, all those on platform things that let the networks themselves win by keeping people on them. And then we find creative ways to benefit from that. I'll actually show some examples. I try and use focused engagement streaks, essentially this idea of something, if we're talking about Twitter, for example, right? Something that's going to engage people on Twitter, another thing that'll engage people on Twitter, a third thing that'll engage people on Twitter, and now a link, and then do it again, right? Ding, 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 grow your essentially profile in the ranking algorithm, and then extract some of that to draw smaller bits of traffic.
It's sort of like giving all this value to kind of ask permission to be self-promotional.
Yeah, except from a machine learning platform, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. No, I mean, it works very much the same way. And even though the people in total numbers are smaller that are essentially coming to the content that I create and produce, and I think this is true for a lot of folks, they tend to be the more focused, more valuable ones. And my goal then is essentially, how do I capture email addresses, right? Email addresses are like the core of how I focus on marketing. And that's because email open and conversion rates haven't changed in 25 years. Like, we're still average, according to MailChimp, right? The averages are still in the 20 to 25% for open rates, click-through rates, conversion rates. It's extraordinary. And then I try and invest in marketing that content through channels that still earn high engagement. Webinars, podcasts, events, other people's newsletters, press, mainstream and niche, industry publications. Again, I'll show you some examples. So this is essentially the practice.
Yeah, and here in the chat, Rich cited Joe Polizzi, don't build your house on rented land. I think that kind of dovetails nicely with your fourth point here, where it's sort of like rent and own. Like, you can do both, but yeah.
No, that's exactly right. So I kind of think of the don't build your house on rented land, but absolutely build the roads that lead to your house on rented land, right? Yeah. So there's the corollary to that. If you want to succeed with content and with those tactics, I think it has to hit one of these four. It's got to either earn engagement on social platforms. In this case, I'm showing off some LinkedIn data. This is pretty extraordinary, right? If I put up a blog post on SparkToro with a video demo of how to do something in the product, yeah, I mean, maybe I can get 500 people or 1,000 people to watch that. It would be a real stretch to get 2,000. But, here you can see that in the previous 7 days, by putting this up on LinkedIn, right, we're talking about 5,000 viewers lifetime and 284 minutes of watching time today for a 90-second video. Not bad at all, right? That's a lot of engagement that's happening on LinkedIn. SparkToro is absolutely earning branding value from it. Second one is you can earn rankings in Google. I think that one of the best ways you can go, and I'm no longer in the SEO field, but if I were, I would be telling anyone and everyone that looking at keywords from a volume perspective is a tactic that's 10 years old. Looking at keywords from an opportunity perspective, essentially, if I rank highly for this keyword, will I actually draw lots of traffic to my site, or is Google, cannibalizing that or serving up their own stuff? I would really, really take that. Number 3, you can earn coverage from other people's publications, right? This is a research study that I did twice in the last few years about, zero-click searches, and, essentially like came up with the name for it, pioneered this idea of, hey, I think, Google is taking away a lot of clicks. I didn't pioneer that idea, but I just gave it a name and then started publishing data about it, working with first JumpShot and then SimilarWeb. And you can see, right, tons and thousands of people doing this, right? Google issued their own blog post to refute the data, but of course they didn't provide data of their own, so no one believes them. And, and this is, I shouldn't say no one. There's a good number. I have a small cadre of, I don't know, haters in the SEO world that I've had since I was 22. They didn't like it. But I appreciate that level of loyalty. The opposite of loyalty, consistency. That's what I like. And number 4, your final option is earning referrals from other creators. So rather than other people's publications, this is stuff like, here's Sears Weekly newsletter. This was a few weeks ago. And look, they've got this, they're featuring my blog post right up at the top there. Awesome. I love that. Obviously, I have a good relationship with a lot of folks at Sears. They're a SparkToro customer, right? So they probably read the blog, but this was not even an asked for thing. It was great. Just terrific. So how do you get those 4? If you want that amplification, you need a great answer to this one question. who will amplify this and why? I'm essentially saying that without a list of people and publications and sources and an incentive, right? Basically, some sort of a trigger that's going to get them to do it, you are going to have an incredibly hard time breaking through this noise. When it comes to the who, the way I think about it is that you have an audience. We all have audiences, right? All creators, marketers, entrepreneurs. We have an audience that falls into essentially these 4 groups. Customers, people who bought from you. Potential customers, like these are the people that usually, you or your client, if you have clients, want to reach and influence. Amplifiers, people who are not customers or potential customers. They're, event organizers and podcasters and video channel creators and social influencers and niche writers and bloggers and journalists. And all those folks, they're not there to buy from you, but they have the potential to reach the audience that would buy from you. And then there's kind of the broader community. And my concern is that so many of us in the marketing universe, even when we are doing content creation and content marketing and social media marketing and press and PR, we are ignoring this group and we are focusing our energy on current and potential customers, because when we think of marketing, we think of reaching current and potential customers. And unfortunately, that is not the way to have success in a universe that prioritizes amplification. So I like to try and visualize this. So I made this like handy Venn diagram, right? There's the big, broad, that gray circle, giant one. That's like the whole community of people in whatever world you're in. Right? If you're like Nerd Wallet and you're trying to produce content about SEP IRAs, SparkToro is considering trying to set up an IRA program for Amanda and myself and Casey.
Yay!
And get a retirement plan, people. It's important. And so, right, if you're Nerd Wallet and you're creating, there's a huge community, the financial information community, massive. But they're not really necessarily your potential customers. Some of them are. Right? Almost everyone who's a potential customer fits into that world. Most of your potential amplifiers fit into that world, and certainly all your current customers fit into that world. And if you are creating content, the overlap that you want to target is right here. It reaches potential amplifiers and hopefully is appealing to some potential customers as well. That group is where you want to target. So someone asked in the comments, who's that? Isabella asked about employees for company accounts. Do they count as amplifiers? And the answer is only if they fit into this pink group, right? So what I don't like to think of is well, every human being is a potential amplifier. This is technically true. Someone could, someone with no presence could go and create their Twitter account and make a LinkedIn account and start posting about the thing that you did with them. They could, very unlikely to happen, almost certainly unlikely to have much of an impact, right? You want people with existing audiences. And as you're thinking about who will help amplify something and targeting them, you want to think about the amplification potential of that target, not whether they have the ability to do it, but whether they'll actually reach potential customers.
I would add too, with the employees as amplifiers, I think there's a separate piece where you would need to enable the employee as an amplifier. So not effective is an employee resharing on their LinkedIn profile a press release. So proud of this thing, which is like, that's nice, but that doesn't do a lot for that person's audience. But maybe if you enable the employee to think more about, well, what's their personal connection to this news? Maybe it's something like, hey, I worked on this team that launched this product. We worked tirelessly for months on this, and we're really proud of this launch. Like, there's a way to do it, I think, that can be amplification worthy, or that can be effective. But I think there needs to be some element of strategy to it.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing I'd say is, for the vast majority of employees are not people who reach potential customers with their content. They probably don't even reach the interest-based community with their content and amplification. That's not true for every employee, right? Certainly when I was at Moz, I brought on people like, Russ Jones, who of course tragically passed away this year, but Brittany Muller, Dr. Pete, Ruth Burr, all people who reached potential customers, current customers. They were amplifiers within the niche already. So if we're talking about those people, absolutely. Right. And certainly, I think that a very wise tactic for a lot of managers and C-level execs is to go out into the community and go find people who are terrific amplifiers. HubSpot has done this, right, a bunch. I think one of their big acquisitions recently was a podcast, right? They picked up, the Hustle podcast, right? Because they thought that reached a lot of their audience. And so that, they're building like this media engine through acquisitions. When you ask this question, who is going to help me amplify? There are bad answers. I'm not trying to cause offense here, right? What I'm saying, I've done this too, right? I've been like, well, I'm going to make this blog post, and I'm sure some of my friends in marketing will help me amplify it. This is technically accurate. They will. But is it a great answer? No, it's the lazy answer. Once you've got a giant marketing engine, right, that's already spinning in a flywheel like this, these answers could work fine. But before that, right, or when you have something really big, when you have client work that you're doing for this, when you have a big launch project, what you want in a great answer is this. This is the list that I used for Lost and Founder when that came out. I cut off the email addresses so as to have some privacy. But you can see, right, these are the people that are influential to the audience that I want to reach, that I believe can help me amplify Lost and Founder's work. And to be honest, almost every one of these ended up amplifying it. So it's kind of great, right? I was on Mixergy's podcast. I was on Growth Show. Tim Ferriss tweeted about it. Brian Clark has shared it a bunch of times. Okay, I never got Alexis Ohanian to do anything. I think he's busy. Heaton Shaw has tweeted about it. Ooh, Jason Cohen, I don't think ever did. Avinash did. Luke wrote a blog post about it. Like, it was great, right? This is a list of influential people who reach the audience that I want to reach with, the type, the website, their email contact information, and then did I reach out to them, et cetera, right? That's the kind of who that I'm talking about here. Let's also talk about the why. The most powerful force in amplification, in earning, a bump, is not great content. And I'm really, really sad that this phrase ever took off in the content marketing universe, right? That the idea of, well, did you create great content? It is not about the quality of that content, right? Oh man, this is so great. This is so useful. It's great content. No one is sharing for this reason anymore. I will agree with you. 15 years ago, I still find myself in the mindset sometimes of, this is so good. If I had produced this blog post, this research, this tweet 15 years ago, tons of people would have shared it. 15 years ago, Twitter has only been around 14 years, so it would have been tough. But right on the verge there. So this is me with my grandfather from Brooklyn, I occasionally will have work conversations with him, which he used to help out a lot in my early days at Moz. I'll be like, Papa, I made some great content. Did anyone amplify it? No, they didn't, because great content it's not what gets done. So, why not? All right. I think Papa's right. I got to figure this out for myself. Thank you. It is a great sweater. I bought him that sweater. This is, and he's wearing it over his other sweater because he's a 93-year-old Jewish man who gets cold even in the spring or summer, whenever we took this. And so what I tried to do for you today is sort of list what are the actual most powerful forces in amplification. Why do people share content? What is a trigger that inspires people? And Amanda contributed to some of these too. So first off, novelty. Nearly every news story, which often earns amplification, it earns amplification because it is novel, it is new. one of the big challenges that you have as a content marketing producer is that a lot of content marketing is not novel, right? When you are writing an article about SEP IRAs to try and help NerdWallet rank, higher than Bankrate.com, it's not novel content. And so it doesn't automatically deserve that categorization. Now, if you say, we did a thorough analysis of every SEP IRA program in California, and these are the tech startups that actually offer one, blah, blah, blah. And sort of here's an analysis of everyone who does that. Oh, okay. And here's a percentage graph, and here's a map of California with each county or each, startup sort of labeled. And ooh, okay. Now we're talking about something that is novel and new and worth covering and potentially newsworthy. And maybe it'll show up in your Google's Discover feed, and maybe it'll show up, it'll be covered by a ton of these outlets, and it will earn links and amplification for this reason. Emotions is probably the most powerful driver. Anytime you look at the most amplified content on Facebook, or Twitter's trending page, even LinkedIn, certainly the homepage of Reddit, a lot of it is emotional content, right? Content that brings out a lot of emotions. This sign brings out a lot of emotions for a lot of people, myself included. But you don't need emotions this strong. Even mild emotions work. For example, one of the most effective recent forms of emotional triggers that's very effective is what I call like the I feel seen.
That's
right?
A big one. Yeah.
Yeah. You see content or you see a social post, you see a visual, you see a comic, you see a news article that speaks to a way that you feel hasn't been represented very much or at all or enough. This works really, really well. So I just want it known. I am wearing pants today. In fact, I wear pants throughout the pandemic because, infuriatingly, I'm almost always on camera at some point during my day. But yeah, workers are putting on pants to return to the office only to be on Zoom all day. Oh my God. You can feel it, right? You can feel it's a mild first world problem inconvenience, but it's exactly the kind of thing. This is barely novel, but it captures the essence of I feel seen. Incentives. Amanda, do you want to take this one?
Oh yeah, this is a good one. This is from The Knot. This was their sort of viral loop that tapped into incentives. So they have this wedding style quiz. So grooms and brides to be can take this quiz that gives them, I think in the results page, it shows like potential venues to consider based on your location and your style, a color palette, like maybe you express a certain preference and it's suggesting to you a palette for your for the theme of your wedding. And so what's interesting about this quiz is it's actually a B2C quiz. It's for the consumer. It's for the person planning their wedding. But it actually powered their B2B business, their marketplace of wedding vendors. So what do I mean by that? It was over time, vendors came to prefer couples who use The Knot because they had this style quiz that helped them do their jobs better. Where over time, vendors were saying, hey, take this quiz and then show me your results so that I can best help you plan your wedding. So it was perfect.
Yeah, I love the idea of essentially when creating this content, The Knot was smart enough to think, okay, it is not going to be, whatever, Rand and Geraldine are getting married. They take the quiz and it was really good content and helped them. They're not going to amplify it because it's not like they're followed by tons of people who are constantly getting married and that's not going to be the amplifier. The amplifier is going to be the wedding photographer, the wedding planner, the designer, the wedding venue, the person who does the food and wine, the whatever, right? All of those folks are going to say, oh, hey, every client who ever talks to me, you should take this quiz and then bring your results to me. And that will determine if we're a good fit and if we can do what you want. And it'll save me a whole bunch of time interviewing you. Perfect, right? You've created an incentive for someone to get value by sharing the content. that incentive model can be extremely effective, super useful in B2B especially. Data ideas made visual. This was a piece that SparkToro did a couple years ago, where we did this fake followers tool, right? And we analyzed every Twitter account that followed at real Donald Trump before of course Twitter removed him from their platform. And you can see that, then we compared it to all these other American politicians and looked at, is Donald Trump an outlier? And it certainly appears that a large number of his followers are spam, bots, inactive compared to other major politicians. And this, of course, as you might imagine, because all news relating to Donald Trump during his presidency had a massive impact on sharing and amplification, right? Lots of people who had long felt that Donald Trump was followed by lots of fake accounts shared this. Lots of people who didn't believe it shared it, right? So people who were like, I'm angry about this. This must be wrong. I'm sure they're messing it up. They also shared it. So, we got lots of amplification from both sides. So obviously has some emotion, but it was making data and turning it visual that made this sing. If we had just said 61% of Trump's followers, and published a blog post about it, but you show some data and some comparison, and people are automatically, when you see a graph like this, what do? You go, oh, well, did you compare against Obama? Oh, Obama is on there. Okay, I got it. What about like Kamala? Oh, yep, Kamala Harris, she's there. Oh, Ted Cruz. Okay, all right, yeah. These are the people I would expect. Well, but Hillary Clinton. Oh, yeah, she's at the end there. Okay, great. Right? That's immediately how people go to it. And we did this because we had this idea, because when we launched Fake Followers tool, everyone who came to the product did two things. They checked their own account first, and then they checked Donald Trump's. that was the pattern. Granted, this was during his administration when, Twitter was sort of very powerful for his amplification. Social proof, another really powerful trigger. When you see other people who like, trust, respect, have shared the content, people like you, right? If I see Amanda share something, I am much more likely to share that myself than if I had just found it on my own or, had seen it from someone I didn't know. That social proof is incredibly powerful. We know this works well in conversion rate optimization and landing pages and, all sorts of marketing, very effective for marketing amplification as well. Existing authority. So this is meaning someone, a publication or a person that I trust in the space has published on a topic. I think this one can be very frustrating for a lot of marketers, particularly because if you are not an existing authority and you are competing against people who are, you have this feeling like I am playing from, I'm starting the race 50 yards back from everybody else. It feels unfair. It is an unfair advantage. And what I want to say is, hey, let's look at it another way, which is if you start to earn authority in your space, you get to be further ahead of everyone else. And this speaks to the consistency of publishing, of becoming an expert, of earning the authority that comes from that recognition, all those kinds of things. Oh man, has this been here the whole time? Hide that. Belief reinforcement, super powerful. So for the last few weeks, right, I've been talking a whole bunch about chill work, which Amanda and I, admittedly, this week we took on too much. We did not chill nearly enough. The next couple of weeks, we're gonna have to chill. But this idea of essentially not forcing lots of work hours and days, but instead just doing a chill amount of work at the pace that you can go, and focusing on the important stuff and letting most everything else slide. Just saying no, right? So this idea of chill work has been really important. And so, of course, as I've been amplifying this, and I blogged about it a couple of weeks ago and all of that, when I saw this post from the co-founder of Rescue Time on Hacker News, I amplified it immediately because it reinforced the belief that I had. I mean, I love this in particular. What does he say here? Some of this is counterintuitive. For example, our decades worth of data has taught us quite consistently that the average knowledge worker spends 2 to 3 hours a day in focused work activities. 2 to 3 hours. You don't need an 8-hour workday for 2 to 3 hours of focused work. You can do 2 or 3 hours of focused work and then be done. And you will get as much done as the average knowledge worker, who in the United States, at least, is averaging like 9.5 hours. Because a lot of us, unfortunately, work on weekends and work nights and all that kind of stuff. Another powerful one, reciprocity. Someone does something kind or nice for you. Someone does you a favor. Someone promotes something of yours. You feel a natural human response to reciprocate. Well, if you're a kind person, which most of us are, right? Most human beings, quite kind. And that reciprocity is a powerful amplification trigger. So if you're wondering, hey, can I get the attention of a brand, person, service? Often if you say something kind about them, you really can. I wanted to share one example in particular, which is the New York Times wrote about a couple of years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, they wrote about the most visited and shared piece that they ever published, which was, I think, in 2015. It is this quiz. It's how y'all use and you guys talk. And there is something just amazing about it. In fact, I tried to analyze which of the sharing triggers, the amplification triggers, does this actually hit on? Right. So the way the quiz works is it asks you questions like, how would you address a group of 2 or more people? And for me, I would say y'all or you all. I might say you guys. I'm trying to be a little more gender inclusive, but what do you call it when rain falls while the sun is shining? I call that a sun shower. Huh. I don't know who said the wolf is giving birth. The wolf is giving birth. I asked my grandfather, born in Brooklyn, right? And he said, wait, it's raining, but there's sun. The devil is beating his wife. And
that's what I knew.
Papa, I've never heard that. That's insane. That sounds crazy. But what do you get, right? You get a map at the end that shows geographically where you were likely born and raised, right? And then it will show, and then you can compare it against other people. So what is this? It's novel. It's entirely new. It's emotional. It speaks to authority. It's visual data. It's belief reinforcing, right? It's reciprocal. And of course, there's social proof. Amazing. Just amazing, right? It hits on all of these. No wonder it is the New York Times' most visited page ever, beating out, by the way, their article on 9/11, which was like linked to on the homepage. I don't know how many of you were on the internet in 2001, but linked to on the homepage of like every website on September 11th, 12th, 13th of 01, right? They were all linking to this New York Times piece. So it is incredible that this did even more.
Do you remember how accurate your results were?
I mean, I'm so easy. Like I basically born and raised whole life in Seattle, and they're like, you are from the Puget Sound region. I'm like, yep, wow. Sure I am. There you go. Pacific Northwest. Apparently the one that triggers it for, that separates Pacific Northwesterners from other parts of the West Coast is what we call, I think in California, you call them roly-polies.
Yeah.
And we call them potato bugs.
Those are two different bugs.
Nope, same bug.
No.
According to the New York Times language quiz.
Are you sure it's those words? Potato bugs, they look like disgusting flesh-colored turtle skeletons.
Oh, that sounds delightful. We'll have to do an office hours on that. I have a weird thing with, I don't mind most bugs, but I don't like them when they get big. Like small bugs, fine. Big bugs, I'm not into it. Like I can't do Florida. Mm-mm. All right, last bit here, some secret sauce tips. If you want to win, you want to optimize for engagement streaks. Okay, so look, there's lots of people saying they're two different bugs. My guess is if there are two different bugs in the Pacific Northwest in Seattle, we foolishly call them the same thing. right? Or we foolishly call the thing that you call roly-polies potato bugs. And this is how the New York Times quiz was able to figure out that we're from the Northwest. So, that might be it. Engagement streaks. This is the idea of you give the networks what they want, right? Content that keeps people on the platform, posts that earn replies. Replies are especially powerful right now. I don't know if you've seen some of my LinkedIn tactics around this. Visual and video formats, right? Keep people engaged. And then you give your followers what they want, which tends to be consistency, controversy, and or belief reinforcing content, right? That tends to get you more amplification and following. And then stuff that's easy to consume and process. So Amanda, you're sort of the master of this, especially on Twitter and LinkedIn, right? Where your content is very short, sweet, easy to consume, keeps people on the platform, and thus over the last couple of years, your platform your audience has grown dramatically. And the idea is that you engage, right? So that high engagement, non-promotional, audience serving, network serving post, another one like that, then a promotion with a call to action, like a link, and then you go back to it, right? And the idea is that these are earning you the brand exposure and new followers, while this one capitalizes on that algorithmic reputation and sends the clicks back to your site. You can also use latent versus active links to your site. This is from CrowdCow, which is a company I was helping here in Seattle, run by some friends. And look at that. I love it, right? You post something that creates interest and curiosity, and someone says, oh, I got a Google reverse sear. Excellent, excellent. I need to get some of your products. I like that one too. Oh, that's pretty good. Right? This idea of posting content that latently creates curiosity and interest. If you're pitching for amplification, it's one of my last tips, try this. Write one pitch email or DM or whatever to one person you know well. Hey, Cyrus, I hope you and Dawn made crazy money at the roulette table in Vegas. Cyrus and his wife Dawn went to Vegas recently. Blah, blah, blah. Well, even if you lost, maybe I can call in a favor. Amanda and I are doing this webinar. Oh my God, this is so meta right now. Hey, could you do me these 3 favors? Share this LinkedIn post, retweet this thread, and tweet this link with anything you want to say about it. There you go. That's my one email to one person. I know Cyrus well. He's probably going to say yes to this. And then I copy and paste that message to other lists of amplifiers, and I just modify what needs to be modified. So I send it to Gia over at Elevate, and I'm like, hey, Gia, hope you and Claire are having the best month ever with Forget the Funnel, right? Their program that they're launching. So like, I know them, I like them, we have some relationship. I'm reaching out, and I just use the same format and I edit it to fit the next person. If you're really struggling with this, I urge you, this has been huge for me. Over my career, I've done this, I think, 4 times, where I think basically I'm going to build a private group. It's like an email list of people who amplify things together. I have one that's like in Seattle startup world. I have one left over from like my ventured back days. I have one for indie startups, and I have one that's like in marketing world. And I have these groups of people, and I'm on their threads, and like they'll ask me to share things. I'll ask them to share things. It's good for all of us. It's kind of great, actually. Turns into a lot of relationship building too. I wrote a blog post about it, so you can check out more. And with that, let's do some Q&A.
Yeah.